So just to paint the picture, I thought I was buying a $1.3 million business in terms of the business I looked at that really had pre-COVID numbers. When I walked in the door, and that, by the way, had 24 employees.
Okay.
Then when I walk in the door, I realized, oh my gosh, like our volumes have dried up tremendously.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast, where we'll be discussing the struggles and lessons learned along the journey of a seven-figure entrepreneur. It's my great pleasure to welcome our guest today, Aaron Hoover with Crystal Courier Services. Aaron, welcome.
Thanks, John. I appreciate you having me. Pleasure to be here.
Of course. Yeah, we're just excited. So without further ado, we'll just go ahead and jump right in. Aaron, as a small business owner and an entrepreneur, please share with us your story. Where did you start? Where have you gotten to? Maybe share a few key lessons learned along the way, but ultimately, we just want to hear your journey.
You got it. Yeah, thanks, John. So, yeah, I'll start all the way back at college, only because it is relevant. I'd grown up doing, small business type things with lawn mowing and car washing, as probably many entrepreneurs listening have. But it kind of got the bug in me so much that in college I studied entrepreneurship at Ball State University in Indiana. And so I got through that program and ended up going to work for a couple different companies, and ultimately said, gosh, I really feel like I need an MBA. So I studied entrepreneurship out here at University of Colorado in Boulder, entrepreneurship and finance. And then what might be surprising to you guys is the turn I took at that point. So the summer of 2007, I got an internship at Coors Brewing Company. And as you can imagine, it was a fun business to be in.
Right.
It was an internship in procurement where we specifically, I put this program together where we were developing small businesses, specifically women and minority-owned businesses, and developing them for the supplier base for Coors Brewing Company at the time to use. And it was fun because it got to meld like that small business interaction with, a big corporation. And it did actually lure me away. That's the twist. It lured me away into big, corporate America. So after I graduated with my MBA, I spent about a dozen years, to sum it up, in larger Fortune 500 type companies, from United Airlines to Molson Coors that became to White Wave Foods, which is now Danone, and all in supply chain type jobs. So I would say I was a supply chain guy by accident, because think about it, I had that internship and I wasn't even studying supply chain.
Right.
And just fell into it enough and enjoyed it enough that I did it for 12 years or so. And it was everything from logistics type roles to procurement, where I'd purchase anything from indirect supplies and services to packaging materials, right? And really enjoyed my time there. But one key lesson I would say was, as I had the entrepreneurship and small business ownership in my heart, I knew that the whole time. I also realized I needed that time to mature as professional, maybe build a little bit of a nest egg too, because financially I had to know that I was either going to start a business, which needed financial runway, or buy one, which needed a bit of capital. And so even as I was early in that journey, I said, hey, I really need to leverage the corporate experience as much as I can to mature and to financially get to where I need to be. And, in 2020, so the journey into small business ownership was in 2020, Molson Coors announced we're going to move all of our corporate jobs out of Golden. So I was based in Golden, Colorado, and in Denver, and we're going to move all those corporate jobs to Milwaukee and Chicago. So they offered me a great job, but it was in Milwaukee, and I didn't want to relocate. So I turned that down and decided at that point I'm going to follow my heart into small business ownership. So I was shopping for businesses, and long story short, I was under contract for one that fell apart due to COVID. And so the attorney that I was working with at the time said, yeah, sorry that fell apart, but I've got about 6 different business brokers that I've grown to know and trust over the years. Why don't you give them a call and just see if they have anything interesting? Sure enough, Crystal Courier Services was on that list of one of the brokers that he gave me. And when he described local courier service, final mile delivery, given my background that I just gave you, I had said, oh my gosh, that fits perfectly. Like, I'm in. And so one thing led to another. And so that was back in August of 2020 that we closed on it. And so for about the last 4 years, I've been running the business, and I guess a little bit about that is our bread and butter would be, final mile delivery along the Front Range of Colorado. So if you're familiar, from Fort Collins to Pueblo, we run routes every day. So think about like, UPS and USPS, how they run routes. We're not that dissimilar. We do operate a little bit quicker and even in some cases a little bit cheaper. And so the way that we do that is, let's just say, take Metro Denver, for instance. If we're covering all areas of the city twice a day, so we'll run like a morning route and an afternoon route, it allows us to pick up an item on a morning route and then deliver it on an afternoon route and get it across town same day, very cost effectively. Our main clients would be like dental labs, optical labs,
Okay.
print shops, a bunch of supply distributors. You can envision. So that's who we are. And again, a local logistics company that I've just been having a ball with. We're about a 23-person company, to give you an idea of the size there. We have our own fleet of vehicles, as far as our own maintained fleet, and we're all employees, which is a little bit of a different model because a lot of careers have an independent contractor model as well. So we get the people issues that come along with the employee things too.
There you go. There you go. And that number of employees, is that how many were there when you purchased it 4 years ago, or have you grown since then?
Let me, can I give specific numbers on
Yes,
this?
please.
Are you good? Okay. As far as revenues and things like that?
Yeah.
Okay, so when I took over, again, keep in mind, it was like the early days of COVID. And so you might think I'm crazy, although I'm sure many entrepreneurs out there listening are going, yeah, actually, I bought a business then, or whatever. So just to paint the picture, I thought I was buying a $1.3 million business in terms of the business I looked at that really had pre-COVID numbers. When I walked in the door, and that, by the way, had 24 employees.
Okay.
Then when I walk in the door, I realized, oh my gosh, like our volumes have dried up tremendously. They had cut, which I applaud the old owners of the business, down to 16 employees, because that kind of right sized it for the small volume, the volumes that had shrunk. And in our business, volumes are everything, because if you think about sending a driver 40 minutes away from Denver to Boulder, and if that driver does 2 deliveries versus 20, you almost have the same cost still, because you've got to get them all the way up to Boulder. They've got to cover the territory and then all the way back. And in COVID, I wouldn't say that it was the 2 deliveries, but it was sure lighter, to the point where on many of our routes, we were upside down. And so we were that first year about 850,000. So I thought I bought a $1.3 million business, and we were 850. I'm happy to say this year will be around 1.4. So
Awesome.
we've clawed all that back. Yeah. And, like I mentioned, the optical and dental segment when I took over was about 95% of our business. Now it's about 80%. So you can tell we've diversified our customer base, therefore making it a healthier business. Presents a little bit of different challenges when you're not as niched, but like in some cases, that's a great thing, right? Sometimes you need new problems.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's fantastic. That's amazing for you to be able to turn it around in such a short amount of time. I mean, you're talking only 4 years, and you've taken it from the 800,000 to almost 1.4. That's fantastic.
Thanks. It's been a fun journey. And, some of that, I can't take all the credit for, because some of that was just natural with COVID rebounding, but truly a lot of consolidations happened within the optical industry, within the dental industry. There's, the digital stuff that's kind of hurting us. So like we would pick up, let's say, an impression that a dentist took from your mouth and then take that to the lab. A lot of that's going digital now. And that's the good thing for the earth and for the whole system. But it is like funny, because to say a lot of it did rebound, or started to rebound, but some has been some natural contraction within the industries that we operate. So it's been fun.
Yeah. Very cool. I love the idea or concept that you're being intentional about the diversification, realizing, okay, well, if dental's, such a big portion of what we do and that's dropping, then we've got to go and find some other sectors that we can bring on board and start to utilize. So you said that dental's only about 80% now. Where's the other 20%?
Yeah, well, and I'll even give you a bit of the journey, or the
Okay. Yeah,
to
go for
that,
it.
which was, you know, I realized, hey, we've got these established routes. They're working well. We just need to put a little volume on them, right? So let's just step back and look at it from a slightly higher view and say, what's near all of our current clients? So think about a strip mall, right, where they'll have maybe an eye doctor and maybe a dentist, but hey, maybe there's a beauty salon, and maybe there's a bank nearby, and maybe a restaurant, right? So you just kind of think about conceptually who's near, each of your current customers. And sure enough, we've gotten a beauty supply distributor, so they're actually even just around the corner from us. That we send cases of shampoos and creams and brushes out to beauty salons. So that's worked pretty well. We've gotten a couple of print shops, to answer your question. So print shops that print restaurant menus to real estate brochures to business cards. And so you can imagine, yeah, like we're delivering in that same strip, printed materials that need to be done. We've picked up a couple of banks as well, or credit unions within the Denver metro area, and that's been really good too. This may go away at some point, but they're transporting documents live documents that need to be moved. So yeah, just to give you a glimpse into that, those are a couple of ways we've diversified outside of optical and dental.
All right, no, Aaron, I love your intentionality around this idea of, hey, it costs the same amount when I send a route driver out. And so each route is this set overhead cost. And so I'm going to look in that route area. I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to maximize my capacity for this driver. And instead of only having two, like the example you brought up, I'm going to say, hey, I'm stopping here. What's close to him? I'm going to reach out to them. I love that idea or concept of marketing directly on that route to build capacity for each individual route. What an awesome way to do that. And clearly it's working if you've gone from the 800,000 a year to the 1.4 that you'll end this year. I mean, bravo.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
I appreciate that. Yeah. And we're doing it with a couple less people, to be honest, given kind of what the business was prior to the purchase. And if you think about it too, I've always been amazed at Amazon's model of like, they're, now granted their drivers are doing like 250 stops on some routes,
right.
But I think about that and I think, man, well, they made 4 stops on my block alone. No wonder they're able to, jam in a couple hundred stops on an 8-hour shift. So anyway, but yeah, we're not quite there, of course, but we're all business to business versus, Amazon being mostly residential deliveries. But yeah, it's been fun and it's been a neat journey to go down.
So. Yeah. Well, and then understanding, hey, as I'm looking at these routes and I'm trying to maximize, then maybe I'm consolidating and saying, hey, you know what, this area I don't have as many, so I'm going to actually take these 2 routes, make it into one, so I'm going to have one less driver or whatever, so that I can make sure that I'm maximizing my efforts in all areas, both in capacity, but then also looking at the routes themselves and saying, okay, well, how can I be more efficient in those routing? So that makes sense that you say, hey, I'm actually a few less than I was before and actually doing more capacity because you're thinking through that process better. So that's awesome.
Yeah, more tightly concentrated routes for sure. Yeah.
No, fantastic.
We'll talk a little bit about this later in the call, but our current software is a little bit clunky and stuff, but I've got a great team, and every year for sure we'll do a robust route review, kind of getting to your point where we sit down and say, okay, what can we do better? What do we really need to overhaul here? Versus, weekly and monthly, we're doing tweaks, right? We're doing route tweaks, but not a robust route review. But I think that's how we've been able to successfully say, okay, let's keep the structure and the network optimized, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, love that. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. What a fantastic journey you've been on. I love the intentionality around, hey, I was in school. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I thought, you know what? I got to learn. So you went to school to learn entrepreneurship. You went back and said, no, I need an MBA. So then you went back and did some more. And then you're like, okay, well, I'm doing this internship. I'm seeing a little bit of the corporate world. I'm going to go investigate that a little bit. And your intentionality around, I know that deep down I want to be an entrepreneur, but I'm going to go gain some experience and some knowledge to understand, a little bit more about this. Great. Because too often I see small business owners that they just jumped and ran, and sometimes it works.
Yeah.
But then you think about it, and only about 5% of all businesses ever make it to the 7-figure mark.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
$1 million in annual revenue, only about 5%. So that's a tight knit group of people that made it there, and only about, what is it, there's only 20%. I think 80% of all businesses that start never make it to 5 years. So there's only
Yeah.
like 20% that make it past that 5 year mark, and then
Yeah.
you've only got the top 5%
Yeah.
of that are actually getting to that 7-figure mark. So, no, I love your
Yeah.
intentionality of, hey, I want to learn how to do this. I want to do this. I'm not sure what vertical or what field I'm going to be in yet, and that's okay.
Right.
By happenstance, I happened to get into logistics and
Yep.
went that route and purchasing and learned all of that, and then as you're researching and trying to decide which to buy, that sounds like that was meant to be, right? Oh, a courier
Yeah.
service. Hey, I know a little bit about that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. No,
So,
thanks for that. And then one other stat I would even give you, which I think was always fascinating to me, that from back in my business school days, but is around just longevity of businesses. So by the way, Crystal Courier Services is a 75-year-old business this year, and
congratulations.
but thanks. Yeah, I can't take much credit, as you know, for that. But I bought it from a third generation business owner, and the stat that I always loved was like first generation, starts it, and if they're successful, great. Second generation really probably lifts it off the ground, but then the third generation sinks it, down into the ground, right? Is like a general stereotype that could be had. And, this was the classic case of that. Crystal Courier was, where grandpa started it, the dad really grew it, and then the daughter came along, her and her husband, amazing people. They ran it for about 10 years. But when I came in the door, they admitted, we're not really like business people. We're educators by our background, and we really want to follow our hearts back into education. So
Right.
we've decided to list the business for sale. And it always that wisdom kind of struck me as, wow, like they see, like it is hard to carry on a business that long, and maybe some fresh blood in there is a good thing, to be able to say, hey, let's invigorate, some new life into this thing. So anyway, I would like that stat too.
No, I love that. And on top of that, you were dealing with a pandemic at the time, right? And so you're looking at their stats for the last couple of years, and then you get in there and you're like, oh, guys, this is I thought I was buying.
Yeah, true. And it was one of those where they couldn't have predicted it.
Nobody could have.
What was going to happen? Yeah, but I do think they were again wise enough to say, we're running out of steam here, though. Like, we don't want to have to deal with this, which is fine. Give it to somebody who's passionate about it, right?
Yeah, and you were ready. You were fired up and like, yeah, let's get in. Let's hit the ground running. Let's turn this around. Yeah. And look, in just a few short years, 4 years, and just look at what you've done. You've taken the capacity, increased it, decreased a little bit, been a little bit more efficient on what you're doing, and you're moving forward. So
thank you very much.
That's awesome. Well,
appreciate that.
Now we're to the next portion of the show, Aaron. So I'm going to switch gears just a little bit. As it pertains to you, continuing to strive to be the leader that you want to be within your organization, and building your team and developing them, and continuing to do that. What's something you're dealing with real time, and let's have a conversation about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for the opportunity here to do this, because it's good to have a sounding board, right? It can be lonely at the top sometimes. And I know you guys have even said that on other podcasts. And so, so employee issues are always kind of a thing that, small business owners are dealing with. And we're certainly not immune to that. But I'll take a little bit of a different twist, is that I've been, some of the ones that I inherited are still with me today, even 4 years later. And man, I recognize some of those folks have really, put their neck out there and sacrificed a lot to help me out and make this business successful. And I'm so appreciative of that. And, there's, a couple of issues like that I just think about relative to, hey, like we do need to make changes as a business though, right? So,
right.
Okay, yeah, you've been here. Like there's one guy that's been here 35 years. Another one, my ops manager, who's awesome, 13 years has been here. And so they're kind of used to the way that things have been working, and that's awesome. Customers love them. They're great with customers. And then, so for me to go make the changes that I know are going to be necessary to meet maybe evolving customer needs, it's going to require change, and it's going to maybe be uncomfortable for everybody, but I'm specifically, cognizant of those that have been with me a while, right, and that have had my back, right? So I guess my issue that I'm kind of dealing with real time is really one more around change management relative to employee retention. and trying to keep those, ones that you really want to retain, keep them happy, right? And I'll even dive into one specific issue on change management that I've got is, we've got some software in place that does pretty good for dispatching and routing, and it's really the backbone of our operation. But frankly, we need to elevate that to enhance our customer experience and also to collect better data, also to make us more efficient on our routing. And so there's many reasons for the driver, like of needing to change. But I'm also cognizant that it's going to make our lives a little bit harder for our drivers, right? It's going to require a little bit more data collection, a little bit more refined attention to detail. And so, yeah, I don't know if you have any tips or tricks on, again, change management with what would probably be a big change to our core employee base. And gosh, yeah, anything you just throw at me that, hey, don't forget this, or I'd recommend that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love your intentionality around saying, hey, I'm looking for the future. So here at Elite, we see business from two different angles. We have what we call the Elite Growth Method, where we have this mountain, and up at the top is our vision. And we see vision as purpose, values, mission, and mission goals. Your purpose is why you do what you do. Your values are who you are and how you show up. And then your mission is your destination. This is where we're going to get to. And then your mission goals are the metrics involved around that, so that you know that you've arrived, right? So once you get there, you know that you've arrived. Mission is very specific. It's 3, 4, or 5 years from now. Okay. That's choosing a destination. So with those three things, that's your vision. That's up at the top of the mountain. Then the mountain comes down and you got two sides. You got your daily operational needs, right? Ensuring excellence in your daily operational. And then on the other side, you have your long-term strategic. Now, a lot of times we get stuck in this daily operational mode, right? That's the driving force for the business, right? That's what got us to this point. We've built this machine. It's working. It's driving, right? Now, the thing that we have to remember is what got us here isn't going to get us there. Yep. So I love your intentionality around this is saying, hey, look, guys, this routing software has worked up to this point. We've done everything we can to make it as efficient as possible. And now we're realizing, hey, this is actually a software issue. We're being held back or held hostage by the software. We're not able to continue to move forward like we want to do. So the way we would look at change management, especially as it relates to employee retention, is this. First off, you've got to get everybody bought in to your vision.
Okay.
So our leadership model here at Elite is such. We say, as a leader, your job is threefold: to set the vision, build the team, and deliver results. Now, as an owner, deliver results doesn't mean that you're actually the one doing the work, but that you're ensuring that everybody has the resources necessary to ensure that the results are being delivered, right?
Yep.
And then you're building your team, you're setting that vision. If you're setting that vision and you've instilled into your team this destination, hey, we're going to go after and we're going to reach this thing, it's so much easier when we have to modify and change and work through some change management issues, because they're already bought in on the vision and they understand, hey, we have certain things that we need to leverage and certain skills, qualities, whatever, that we need to go out and develop. So these strengths that we're going to leverage, we're going to continually work on those. But these other strengths that we don't have yet, we have to go out and find those and build those. One of them is this particular software issue. So if you've got a team of employees that are bought in, they agree with your why. Their purpose is like, yes, that's why I get out of bed every morning. That's why I come to work. Their core values fit in your company, meaning they show up the same way each and every time, just like the rest of you. So their core values fit. They're bought in on your purpose. Then you now present to them this destination you're going to go to. That's going to make it so much easier for you to say, okay, guys, we got this daily thing that we're working on. Now we're going to think long-term strategic. So we're going to make it to where our destination is. What strengths do we have to leverage? What strengths do we have to develop? One of these things is this software. This is holding us back. It's a hindrance to us right now. We need to change this. By doing it in that approach, now you're involving them and bringing them along and saying, hey, you already told me you're excited. You want to go after and reach this destination as a team with all of us.
Yep.
This is something that we have to do in order to make sure that that happens. Because if we continue doing the same thing that we're doing now and expecting different results, we're all going to be super, super sad when the same thing happens. Right?
Yep.
Definition of insanity. Do the same thing, expecting different results. We know we have to change something. We have to pivot. We have to adjust. We have to adapt in order to get us to the next step. Because what got us here is not going to get us there. Yep. And as you explain that to them and you bring them along and they're part of that process, it's going to be so much easier for this transition. Yes, it's still going to be painful. Yes, you're still going to have those that are going to grumble along the way and they're going to be like, oh, why can't we just stick with the same software? But as the business owner, as the leader, if you're setting that vision of what this software change can do, and the abilities that it's going to bring to your team for you to be able to be more successful long term, it's going to be so much easier of a sell to get their buy-in on it.
Yeah, I love it. Well, no, and I love what you're saying there. I'll take it as I'll put some words in your mouth. How about
Go
that?
for it.
Is the buy-in is critical, and I think every business hopefully has a couple of superstars, right? Like a couple of leaders and just people that are the rock stars that maybe you can even kind of turn into disciples. So once you get them bought in, it's like, okay, there's going to be the grumblers like you're saying, but hey, superstars, can you help support them, and let's give you tools to enable them to bring everybody else up, or so the whole tide. So I like what you're saying there about that, because that buy-in is critical to be able to get that momentum going, right?
Yeah. So if you've got an employee, they show up to work every day and they just do the same thing in, day out. They're just doing their own thing. They've got blinders on of what's going on with the rest of the business. Guess what? It's going to be a lot harder for them to buy in on changes because they don't understand.
Yeah.
So one thing to keep in mind is clarity is kindness.
Nice.
One of my favorite phrases. The more that they understand how what they're doing on a daily basis impacts the company and impacts the ability for the company to reach the destination that you've all set and established and you're all excited and pumped and jazzed about, they're going to be willing to, have these changes happen and occur, because they're actually probably going to do a complete 180 on you, and they're going to start saying, hey, what if we did this? What if we did that? They're going to start coming to you with these ideas of, hey, we need to be more efficient. We're not going to reach this destination unless we change this and we change this and we change. You're going to go, oh yeah, I didn't think about that, right?
Nice.
So now you're doing one step further than just trying to retain them through this change process. Yeah. You're now enabling them to be the creators of this change and part of the process. And then now you've got this co-creation going on where everybody's helping out and everybody's talking through, and hey guys, let's rally together. Any ideas of how we can do this? Let's share it. Let's bring it to the table. Because if you think about it, if you're sitting down doing some long-term strategic planning and it's just you're going to be super limited on what your thoughts are going to be on that, right? Because you're only seeing what you see. Now imagine if you brought 3, 4, 5 of your employees, some leaders within your company that you're like, you know what? I want you to be involved with me. I want you along on this ride as we change and adapt and build the future company that we're going to grow into.
Yeah.
Now you have all these other views, points, and ideas and concepts, and you've just magnified your ability to think through, okay, what are we going to do? How can we do this in that process? So it's any opportunity that you have to co-create with your employees, that's going to make them super loyal, because they're going to feel like they're seen. They're going to feel like they're heard, and they're going to say, hey, look, I'm not just coming to pick up a paycheck anymore. I'm coming because I believe in our purpose. I 100% share the same values as everybody else. It's great to know that when I show up to work, how I am and who I am matters, because everybody else is the same, because we all share these core values. And I'm super excited about where we're going to go to as we try to reach our mission. it changes everything. You're building loyal employees. You're building basically little mini owners within the company, because now they're saying, oh, I got to take these blinders off because what I do matters
Yeah.
and it impacts all of our abilities to be successful as a company.
Awesome.
So anyway, as you think through
No.
that, the more that you can set yourself up for success by setting that vision, because remember, as a leader, those three things: set the vision, build the team, deliver results. And as you continue to do that, you're going to just love the results that you get from your team.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. I love everything you just said there. And, one nugget that I will definitely amplify here is that you're right. I don't have the best ideas. I can't, my perspective is so limited on, my perspective that, hey, bringing in others are, just really elevates everything. And, but then I love, what you're saying there around, you can actually build, enhanced loyalty and buy-in in your employee base versus just getting through a change, right? I think that's the key message, is you're trying to turn them into evangelists in a way, for your brand, your company, and, that the vision and mission. So
yeah. And then change just becomes part of the process. It's no longer this uncomfortable thing. It's, oh yeah, no, we know we're going to have to pivot and change because we got to go after this next thing. Because as soon as you reach your destination, man, you're going to celebrate and you're just going to love it. And then immediately you're going to choose the next destination. Okay, guys, now where do we want to go? What's our next thing we're going to go accomplish?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. That's wonderful.
Awesome. Well, Aaron, this has just been a fabulous podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I love your intentionality about, hey, I want to continue to grow and I want to do it in the right way. You have this background and you're like, I know that if I just kind of stumble through this, it's not going to be as effective. I want to do this and I want to do it in the right way. I love your intentionality around that. I love what you've done with your business, and I wish you just the absolute best success moving forward. So again, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. I really appreciate it. Now, those who are listening in, if you're just excited about what you've heard from Aaron today and what his company does, Aaron, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, please. I would invite everybody to connect. I guess a couple ways. You can find our company at crystalcourier.com. If you want to connect with me directly, you can email. There's, an info at Crystal Courier. That'll come right to me. Or even just A Hoover at crystalcourier.com. So Aaron Hoover, A Hoover. And then the other one is, if you just want to connect on LinkedIn, it's always great to have a network and then maybe see who I'm connected with as well. So linkedin.com/in/AM Hoover. AM as in Michael Hoover. So look me up there as well, and I would welcome you to connect. Thank you.
Awesome. Love that. And those who are listening in, as you hear these golden nuggets that Aaron shared with us today, I hope that you don't just listen to them and think, oh, that's a great idea. But take a few moments, be intentional, and put them into action. Too often we hear these things and we're like, yeah, we get all pumped up, and then we get sucked back into the daily business, and then nothing changes. So I would greatly implore you to just choose one thing that you heard today, put it into action, and you'll be just ecstatic about the results that you see. And also, as always, if you heard something today that you're like, hey, I know somebody that's dealing with that same thing, and this would be super helpful for them, please, let's share this. Let's create as much value with as many people as we possibly can. Been another great episode here on the 7-Figure Journey podcast. Again, Aaron, thank you. You're fantastic. This has been a great discussion. And to everybody else, appreciate you coming. Hope to see you again next time. See you later.
Thanks, John.